council meeting. It is 7:35. Mrs. Arcisi, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Bilkey.
Here.
Mr. Engel.
Here.
Ms. Hannikin.
Here.
Mr. Molnar.
Here.
And Ms. Tully.
Here.
Now I ask Tom O'Brien, American Legion Post 801 chaplain, to lead us in the prayer, and then following to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We also ask everyone to remove their hats.
With bowed heads, let us pray. Almighty God, we pray Thee to give guidance to our elected officials so they may work in harmonious and honest manner. Give our elected officials the courage to work together for the common good of our community and provide their constituents with the services that are necessary for all of us to enjoy the fruits of our life. We ask the Almighty God that you watch over our police and fire personnel, for they are our first responders to crises that may arise at any time, day or night. Keep them safe, so at the end of their workday, they may return to their homes and families unharmed. We further ask, Almighty God, that you keep a watchful eye over all our city employees, those civil servants whose work is done for the benefit of our community. In closing, O God of mercy, we ask for thy blessing and comfort for our neighbors who may be suffering from mental or physical disabilities. Cheer them and bring them thy blessing of health and happiness. Amen. And now please raise the flag and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, do I have a motion accepting the minutes of September 28th and October 14th, 2017? Second.
I would, there were a couple of areas in the October 12th minutes that I had sent an email to Josephine regarding the conversation that was reported when Mr. Eisner was describing the problems over at the preserve and the failure to have the subcontractor complete a contract with them to do the work, extra work for $7,500. As I recall it, the mayor said that after some discussion that because Mr. Gelati and the contract manager for Petros Pulte had been in the conversation when the commitment was made by the subcontractor, that he would follow up with a conversation with the parties to make sure that what was actually said and whether there's anything that can be done. That's all I wanted to add into that. And I believe that's what was said. And I just thought that that added some more to what the minutes actually say.
I think the mayor talked about, because we talked about let's make sure what we had agreed upon was done.
Right.
But it was pretty clear that anything that was negotiated between the HOA, for lack of a better term, and the contractor was not
Yeah, I
for
think
a
it was just the
discussion.
scope of what we had mediated, nothing more.
Right, so that the follow-up was going to be on what we mediated, but everything else we don't have been. And in fact, I think he said that we weren't even privy to what had been agreed upon. So
yes, I agree with it said initially, and that's what's reflected in the minutes. But when further follow-up was done about what was actually said and who was present, he said that he modified what he said. In my opinion, he did, and said that they would follow up to verify what was said in the presence of Mr. Gelati and the other contract person from Petros Pulte, which I don't remember his name.
but I think the gist of the minutes are accurate. And when you talk about public comment, actually, I don't even know if by law if I even have to have the public comments in the minutes because it's for legislation. So I think, not to belabor it, I think what we have there is perfect, because if we put in an illusion that someone said we're going to take care of the 7,500,
No, we didn't.
and those, then there's nothing to change.
Well, I don't agree, but if you wish to proceed, then I'll take it, take it accordingly. But that's my observation. I believe it'll be supported by the video. If we could wait on certifying the minutes until next meeting, maybe we can all look at it.
Well, I
Are
probably
you
won't
making a
initiate
motion?
changing them unless there's,
Mrs. Hannikin? Are you making a
I think
motion?
Mr. Mo,
Well,
I think I just heard we're not going to do anything about it,
Well,
so.
you're-
yeah, you can make the motion now, or you can defer it to the next meeting, but
Yeah, right. I prefer we defer those minutes, not the ones on the
So for the
previous.
14th, you'd like to
Changing
defer
them.
to the next meeting?
Right.
I won't
Right.
be changing them, okay.
Okay, so do I have a motion for September 28th minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
So moved to approve those minutes.
All in favor?
Aye,
I need to abstain.
that's right.
One abstention. All right, moving on, we have a presentation tonight from NERSD for the projects relative to the city of Macedonia. We have Ms. Rachel Webb and Mr. Greenland. I knew your name.
I have these to pass out.
We have, thank you. People out there.
We have them.
Maybe to share. Thank you for inviting us here this evening. We were asked to kind of provide an update on where we are with our stormwater master plan and how it relates to Indian Creek and Macedonia. Before I get into that, though, as you mentioned, Frank Greenland, Director of Watershed Programs, is also here with me this evening. So if you have any questions for both of us as we get through this. Starting on the second page of the handout, before I dived into where we are with stormwater master planning, I wanted to give you an idea of where we are just generally with our stormwater activities in Macedonia, Indian Creek, and Brandywine Creek. So just a couple of examples to follow. Currently, you have a community cost share project that you are doing in Macedonia with those funds, so I just wanted to highlight that. You are one of 31 so far who have taken the opportunity to use those funds. We're looking forward to future projects. I know there's been some discussion in some other areas of the city to do some stormwater projects by the community. You have also started construction on the Sioux Lane culvert replacement. You are the implementer of that, but we have an agreement. We came to, I think, a very good partnership where you as a city implement and we are reimbursing you for those costs. Under the Stormwater Management Program, we have been working with your city engineer and service director to get that project implemented and has been now under construction for 2 weeks? About 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and looking for that completion in 2017. So we're very excited to have that project underway. I know that has been something that we have been talking to Macedonia about for an awfully long time. So excited to have that moving forward. I'm also going to talk about inspection and maintenance and then get into master planning. So if you go to the next page, you can see a map there of Macedonia. This is the yellow dots on the map are inspections that we have done in Macedonia since the start of 2017. Underneath those are red kind of X's. Those are maintenance projects. So we have done 39 inspections in Macedonia along the regional system. So those are the large streams, 300 acre drainage or more. Since 2017. From those inspections, and those inspections are either driven by our team doing preventative maintenance routes, bringing items coming to our attention via the engineer, service director, or customers. From those inspections, we've done 12 maintenance projects, removed 85 cubic yards of debris, just over 100 cubic yards of sediment in Macedonia. So those are areas where we had debris or sediment that was the potential to clog or back up in a crossing or culvert and cause some issues with flooding. So you can see here there's a picture. This is Blue Jay Trail. The smaller picture is what it looked like before. So you can't actually see both culverts in the picture of before. And then afterwards you can see now visibly the two culverts. So we have maintained or added to the conveyance of Indian Creek under Blue Jay Trail there. So that's just one of the projects that we have done in 2017. Very specifically, there were some questions on our stormwater master plan study, so that's getting into the next page. That stormwater master plan is we're looking at Cuyahoga River South when we talk about this area. We kicked off that master plan in August of last year, so we're just over a year into the project. At the same time, we've started the master plan in two other of our major watersheds, the North and the Rocky River, and then the Chagrin and Lake Erie to follow next year towards the end of the year. But very specifically, looking at the next page as it relates to the Cuyahoga River South master plan, which directly affects Macedonia, Indian Creek, and Brandywine Creek. So this study area is about 184 acres of land draining to these streams. We're talking about 9 sub-watersheds. This includes, as I've said, Brandywine, Indian, but you also have Tinkers Creek, Chippewa Creek, Sagamore Creek, Furnace Run, Yellow Creek, and there's a couple that I probably missed in there. And then the main stem of the Cuyahoga River, in which all of these smaller watersheds drain into. So in total, 9 sub-watersheds touching 24 communities, Macedonia being one of those. In Summit County, that also includes Sagamore Hills Township, Northfield Village, Richfield Village, and parts of Hudson. It's a 27-month study, so we're, as I said, just about over a year into this, so we have a little bit more than a year to go. The study will wrap up next winter, so around the 3rd, 4th quarter of 2018. Very specifically, the goal of this plan, of this study, this is an intense intercommunity study of the watershed. So looking at the flooding issues, the erosion issues along these regional streams, how they move across community boundaries, their effects within the community that they are in, and then looking at the resolution to those. And those resolutions can come in the form of operation and maintenance activities that we need to do, preventative maintenance on operation. So what we need to look at repeatedly, what we should be keeping our eye on for our maintenance in the area. Also policy recommendations. So looking at different policies to implement, from stormwater regulations to how we do our maintenance. So it's a very broad spectrum, and I'm not quite sure yet exactly what all those policies are going to include, and that's where we need to get a little bit. And then identification of early action projects. Sioux Lane Culvert is a good example. That was an early action project for master planning. We had them look at that as we got started last August, and that's how we were able to get to the project that we have under construction today. And more importantly, I think the one that everybody is really interested in is the stormwater construction projects and what those look like. And the result of the study will develop those projects in and around the regional system, across our service area and in this watershed. And those will get nominated into our stormwater construction plan. And then they will get ranked. That construction plan is reviewed annually. New projects come in, old projects that are designed and constructed come off. We review every year, we rank, we have a scoring system, and projects are ranked across our service area to get our construction plan for the next 5 years. We do look 5 years out. We then look at schedule and funding available, and then go towards implementation of those construction projects. So in relationship to Macedonia and Indian Creek, how does that affect you with all that information I just gave? When are we looking at having recommendations here? Indian Creek, specifically as a sub-watershed to Brandywine Creek, is the first phase out of this master plan. We started off first here in August, and we have been working in this area and actually across the watersheds, but very focused in this area. We are expected to have recommendations from that master plan the 1st quarter of 2018, and then any additional early action projects as they come to light. This is a slight delay from what we had been talking about previously, so we have taken some extra time to get to these recommendations. With that is making sure that we are evaluating the system appropriately, looking at where the problems are, looking at the different types of resolutions, projects that we can implement, how they affect each other, how they affect upstream, and how they affect downstream. So it is a very intensive look at what we're doing. We're very conscious of the fact that any projects that we implement are not to have a detrimental effect downstream as well as upstream. Also, you are also part of the phase 2, which is looking at Brandywine Creek, Chippewa Creek, and Tinkers Creek. So Indian Creek does connect into the main stem of Brandywine Creek, right on the border between Northfield Center Township and Macedonia. So we are taking that into consideration as well. So we're going to be looking at the alternatives development, which are those resolutions, those projects, also in the 1st quarter of 2018. So we are getting there. with those recommendations. Those projects that we talked about will get funneled into the stormwater construction plan and reviewed and ranked, and then as they are ranked and compare with other projects, implemented over time. So with that, the last page that you have there, that's just a picture that was provided to me by your engineer of the current construction of Sioux Lane Culvert. So just wanted to highlight that. I think we're one of the achievements that we've had is to be able to get that project done. So with that, if there's questions.
Can I ask you, outside of that, we know we have some issues and we are time sensitive with what we're doing, but what is Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer doing to start to expedite these things? Because, you know, we talked prior to this about, you know, the priorities in other communities. To be honest with you, I don't really care what the other communities' problems are. I'm trying to concentrate on our own, but I understand how those affect us and we affect them. But what is being done to begin to expedite these things so that we have a little bit more resolution more quickly?
I don't know if you want to. So in terms of expediting, so we are focused on Indian Creek. So that is the first project. That is the first area that we have started in. So that is moving forward out of the gate. Right now, this is the first watershed we are in. This is the first watershed we are going to have recommendations available for. So we have expedited that process. We chose this area for a reason. We chose Cuyahoga River South for a reason. We knew that there were issues here, and we wanted to focus on that, and that's why we did. That's how we set up the organization of those phases. So we have taken steps, I believe, to expedite looking at Indian Creek. We do have to take into consideration our entire service area and the entire watershed while we do all of that. But that is one reason that we did start here in Macedonia and Indian Creek, because we wanted to take that look because we knew about the issues.
Do you take into account severity of the problems as well?
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to...
Can you come to the mic so people can hear you on TV, please? Thank you.
We do take into account the severity of the problems. I have 56 communities in the program that want us to expedite the program. There's no question about it. So we want to be fair. Now, I will say, I do think the district's done a lot of expediting the program here, and you're very fortunate to be the first master plan, and we chose this area as phase one. Now, these are very comprehensive efforts, $5.2 million. First time ever in Northeast Ohio that we've done watershed-based inter-community master plans. Each community's done snippets of their community, the whole community. We're putting the whole puzzle together, so we are being very careful to make sure that our analysis is solid and the recommendations are sound. When we get to the end of master plans or we're looking at individual problems, all of our prioritization is risk-based asset management principles. Everyone wants a project, I get that. Sure. So what it is what is the probability of failure and what is the consequence of failure? And we look at those two metrics, and one times the other spits out scores. So when we develop each year's capital program, we're looking at risk of failure, probability and risk of failure. And we rank projects, see where they fall, see where the revenue is at, and start to line out projects based on that. Now, there is no question there are issues. We're well aware of the issues here. So we need to get done with the master plan, and projects are going to start to fall out. Sioux Lane fell out. You're one of the first ones to get construction ahead of the completion of a master plan. So we're going to continue to analyze that. We know there are issues on Blue Jay Trail and in other areas. They're long-standing issues. So we will get recommendations. You'll hear about them. We will then prioritize against the rest of the service area and see where we fall.
And are these going to be similar to Sioux Culver, where we pay upfront and then we're reimbursed? And if we're reimbursed, are we reimbursed in total, or is it like you pay so much, we pay so much?
I don't think so. I think most of the projects that will be district will undertake them. Sioux was a little different example. There was a need to expedite the project.
Right.
We had a number of other projects under design, and it was just a good relationship to have the city proceed with the procurement design and bidding out of the project, and we felt, happy to reimburse. Most of the time, we run our own jobs on the regional system. Now, the community cost share is a different story.
Right, yeah.
You're running that, and we're reimbursing you on 25%.
I would like to clarify that, because it sounds to me like we have one specific area that has been an issue, well, actually two, and I don't know whether both of them are in your crosshairs as far as Indian Creek watershed, but the Ledge North Bedford area in Macedonia has got major flooding problems on a number of streets in that area. And I gather that you're talking about a construction plan that would be engineered and paid for by the regional sewer district. Am I right or not?
Yes. So we are aware of the issue at the Ledge and Bedford Road, the stream there. I met recently with one of the residents on that street and talked with them about the issues that they've been having. That is something that is on our radar for the master plan and looking at that area in particular. I'm not sure if I know where the second area is. You mentioned two.
Well, there is one off of Shepherd behind Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, going downhill there, down a number of streets below that, which would include Brook Point and Berkshire and so forth.
That I believe is not on the regional system. I think that is the local, what we define as the local system.
I'm just trying to clarify that.
So those would be two different,
Two different ways,
Yes.
because we would do the engineering for that Guadalupe one, but you folks would be doing this. Now, when you said the master plan we're looking at alternatives, development and construction plans in the first quarter of 2018 for this area, or just the overall plan? I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
Yes, very good question. So the first quarter of 2018, we're looking at Indian Creek and Brandywine Creek.
Okay.
And then as we move into the other areas, we'll be expanding out. We'll have at the end of 2018 a full comprehensive stormwater master plan for the entire watershed.
I got you now. So would we have these construction projects identified, not necessarily approved and all that, but identified in the first quarter of 2018?
That is
for Brandywine and Indian Creek.
So that is the goal, yes, that we
Okay.
have that. Out of that, we have the recommended projects that are coming out of Indian Creek and Brandywine that will start to get funneled into the construction plan. We do our construction plan annually. About the middle of the year, calendar year, we start to pull in new nominations for that for the next
Are
year.
you saying that the issue on Ledge Road is going to be, the planning for that will be done by 2018?
I'm saying we will have project areas identified and project solutions in the middle of around the first quarter of 2018. That will include the Bedford Ledge Road. So yes.
Okay.
We should have some idea of what that looks like. We then have to get to the implementation phase, which means that goes into our construction plan and gets ranked from there.
I understand.
And that's to be funded by NERSD in the whole regional plan, as opposed to a community share plan.
Correct.
Okay. So we have had estimates before, and you probably are not even aware of, we had a previous estimate from, and a study from the previous engineering firm that we had.
Yes, we actually are aware of them.
The issue that I think that everybody's concerned about is that we nail down at least what we're talking about here in terms of modifications in the area that might be needed, construction that might be needed, and then, when are we going to be able to get something done about it is the next question. So,
And that's what we're hoping to get from the results and go from there.
Thank you for coming, Rachel. I appreciate it. I think the whole area appreciates it. I am actually going to praise you, and I'm not sure if you got a lot of that. I live in Lake Forest Estates, and we had a project that was done. I saw it on the map where we had a failing sewer valve there, that came. You guys fixed it, but there has been more stormwater this year than I ever remember, and that's a case where we didn't know who to call. Being on council and being a member of the HOA prior, we were scrambling because we didn't know what the heck to do. So I was just wondering, is there a hotline number that we could be able to call? Because that was a project that I guess the NERST came out because of a police officer was talking to someone else who was at a different area by Sioux Culvert and said our dam area was about to bust open, and that's why they came down and checked it out. And the next morning, all these trucks came. I thought it was our service department, but it was NRSD, and they fixed it and they replaced it, and it works fantastic now. So my first question, which I have a few, is there a hotline number that is able to, so people can call you, or if they call us,
that we can say, hey, we're having a real bad problem with flooding right now, after this huge rain?
So usually that is me or our office, our customer service. So it
Okay.
comes in through our customer service. A lot of times, if
What's your
you-
cell phone number?
I can give you, so my number is it's on the back here. So it is actually on the presentation, so my number is there, so you can get through there. If somebody is calling you, I recommend, you can call me, but you
Perfect.
can also call the engineer and the service director. They also know how to get a hold of us.
All right, I have
And
those.
they also know how to get a hold of our stormwater inspection and maintenance
Okay.
group, who were the gentlemen that came out at
Okay,
that
perfect.
time.
So, in my second part of this, I had asked when you guys were coming, people who couldn't attend, if they could write some questions down that they wanted to ask us. So I just have two.
Yes.
And so if you wouldn't mind, they're specific, so I think you kind of addressed them, but if you wouldn't mind. The first question is from Dan Yerma. He lives on 9188 Tanglewood, and his question is, now that work is finally underway on the Sioux Lane Culvert, what is the next project in Macedonia? Obviously, we don't know that until the master plan is done. I ask because every time there is a gully wash or thunderstorm, the swells on Tanglewood Lane overflow, covering the road with water, flooding, driveway, and garage with stormwater. So that is not one of the main areas, but they still want some bang for their $9 a month. So what do we tell people that live off, I know that Ledge Road and Bedford Road are the regional, but how about the more specific areas that are having problems with stormwater?
So we look up and down the regional system. So outside of that, we work with your city engineer and service director to look at those areas,
Okay.
because that's outside of the boundary of the program. Now, if there are effects on those smaller streams that are affecting the regional system, that gets part of that master plan. This area in particular, I don't know exactly where it is. If you can always email me, if you send it to the engineer, send it to me, and we can take a look at it, and I can kind of verify that.
Tanglewood is over by Lady Guadalupe.
Yeah, okay. I always recommend people, if they have questions and they have flooding questions, they can always give me a call, and I'm always happy to address any questions that they have, and if I can't address them, try to get them to the person that might be able to address
So
them.
I have one
Maybe,
more.
can I ask a question before?
Can I ask my other?
Here's the question of the table is, if you have a Phase 1 Indian Creek plan, and this may answer some of the others, I'm looking at a regional plan. And you're concentrating basically on Indian Creek all the way down to the Brandywine through the watershed. We've done this before. We've gone to Tinker's Creek and into Indian Creek. We've gone to Indian Creek to Brandywine. So the recommendation comes out at the first quarter. The question the residents most want to know is, when would you start to how do you rate then those projects within that plan, which would answer Tanglewood, answer some others, and when would you actually start the work?
So it's a great question. And that's where we take those projects, put them in the construction plan, and then we have to rank them against the other projects across our service area. We do that annually. So if there is a project within those recommendations that is in the construction plan, gets ranked high enough for that next year, that would start design and procurement and construction. So we lay out that schedule in there on how that's going to work. It's hard to predict what project or if a project in a particular year, because we go through that annual ranking and look at that business risk score that Frank talked about every year across the service area. So, the ideal, if you have a project that is ranking in that construction plan, then it goes into the schedule, and we look at cash flow, and we look at when that design, procurement, and construction will occur. Our construction plan is put on our website every year, and it's updated as we get into projects. So that includes looking at the schedule. So I guess I don't have a clear, this is going to happen on this particular year.
But if you have the plans done, when do you annually prioritize?
So we do that every year starting in August. So we're getting to the point right now where we have next year for 2018 laid out. We have received the projects that are added and ranked, and we are in the process of setting schedule and cash flow. And it is laid out for the next 5 years. We focus on the next year as the initial, just because those are the ones that are more eminent.
So we prioritize every year, we begin in August. Now, I do think the benefit of the master plans, quite honestly, is more definition on the project needs, which helps in the scoring and prioritization. We've been focusing a lot on failing bridges. Sioux Lane's a good example, things falling in the ground. So that was an immediate need, and we dealt with it. We're dealing initially a lot with extreme erosion that's threatening structures, whether it's sewers, roads, houses, whatever. These are the worst that are out there, and we're moving on those. The master plans provide definition not only on the stream erosion issue, but now we start to talk about flooding. And we really need to do very detailed studies to identify how to solve the flooding problem and where the projects should be. And so the benefit of the master plan is that we identify a whole new suite of projects that are flooding related. And depending upon the severity, if it's 2 houses here and 100 here, we're going to do 100. Right. So it will introduce new projects, more definition, and I do think it will help expedite additional work here and elsewhere across the district.
Okay, so I have another question here, and this one's from Ron Dupop, and it's a little bit different, but it's probably going to get the same results. But I just want to read it because you took the time to write it. So it was, I'm hoping you can ask what plans to have to address the storm sewer in Rolling Hills, which is south of 82. Currently, many of the drains of the street have sunken significantly into the road. This is causing driveways and sidewalks to sink. In addition, the storm waters between home and the backyards get severely overwhelmed during moderate rain, regularly backing up and damaging surrounding areas. So I asked a question. I know that we do a lot of the catch basin work. Is that something that the NRSD is going to be responsible moving forward, or something that the city addressing this, sewers?
So looking at the sewers, and I would say that that's something that would fall onto the city, because we're looking at those streams and culverts. That's not going to have a large enough drainage area. What it does allow, though, and the opportunity is the community cost share money to look at some of those issues. So that is definitely something that community cost share funds can be used to if catch basins need to be rebuilt, if storm sewers need to be replaced. Those are all local projects that can be done with with those funds.
Okay. Thank you.
If I could get, I know we have some people in the audience that have some questions. I'll open it up now. If there's anyone in the audience that wants questions, go ahead. You gotta stay on the chair and talk on the mic. I'm kidding. You can come up here.
Me?
Yeah.
I think it was you. You mentioned kind of at the beginning of what you were saying, something about you do risk management, and that kind of caught my attention. What are you? How do you do that? You're looking at the possible failure of projects. So how does Indian Creek rate as far as you look at the possibility it might fail and the possibility it'll succeed? And you rank those in comparison to other projects? So
that's a great question. So we look at, it's called a business risk exposure, and we look at a couple of different areas with that. So risk of failure is one of those. So, and failure is a very broad term when we're discussing it, because it's not necessarily failure of the stream, it's failure of the stream interacting with that. So a good example is Sioux Lane. So that is a 6-barrel culvert. What is the risk of that culvert collapsing within a given period of time due to the conveyance of the stream? And so that's what we look at. Or what is the risk of that stream eroding into the cell tower or to the house? So, it's on a section by section basis, so it's not actually kind of one score for the entire stream. It really depends on the project that you're looking at. If Frank wants to elaborate. So it's looking at each individual project and what is the risk for that problem and that stream section at that,
So the risk of Sioux Lane was imminent failure of a culvert. Okay, imminent failure. That's the risk. The consequence there's a couple things. If that culvert collapses, transportation, emergency access potentially, conveyance. You've got 6 barrels that are supposed to be sent and flow through, and when they're flat, things start to back up. So now you're exacerbating erosion, which could threaten structures, and backing up the system, which could flood. So that's the consequence of failure. So that's a high risk, and that's why we did the project. So the same thing, I'll use basement flooding or overland flooding. We're going to look at flooding. A lot of flooding recommendations are going to come here and elsewhere across the service area. So the risk is flooding impacting structures. The consequence of failure is, how many structures are going to get affected and what might the damages be or something like that. So when I'm telling you, there's a lot of flooding across this region. And sometimes we have 2 houses flooded in a storm, and in other areas we have 200. So when we look at, the probability of that risk, will it flood in a 100-year storm, yes or no? And you're going to start to see statistics that say yes, and the consequence is 100 may flood or 2. So we're always looking at that probability that's going to happen, and when it does, how severe is the problem? And there's other criteria, but it's really a math equation. What's the probability, and then what's the consequence? How bad will things get? And when you multiply one by the other, you start to spit out the worst problems.
I'm
It should
trying to
get
get an
prioritized.
idea of how risky Macedonia is in your.
Well, we're gonna, I wish, I don't have the numbers on, how many houses are flooded in a given area. So we're gonna start seeing that. We're gonna start seeing that.
Publish scores, though? That's
Well, the score, what we publish, those scores, those projects that ranked high enough, that's what it gets down to. We look at each project, and some of them will score extremely high. Some of them are very, very low. And we only have so much revenue in a given year to put towards design and construction. So that's the amount. And then we start looking at the scores, and we go from highest to lowest, and start looking, okay, this project's 500,000, this one's 100,000. And then quickly you start to go down the list, get your worst, look at your revenue, and at a certain point you run out of money. And then that gets us into the following year as a potential project. So that's pretty much how we do it. Now I will say it changes every year. She says 5 years, and she's right. But the master plans start to really spit out real meaningful information. And every year we reanalyze each project. A bad rainstorm changes the game, and it creates new situations. So we're always looking to make sure we've got the current lay of the land on what's the probability of failure and what's the consequence. I don't know who's
Here's a couple more.
Kathy, go ahead.
Hi, Ms. Webb, thank you very much for your time, not only the other day, but all throughout this process. I'm no stranger here. I live on North Bedford Road. To your point, what do you say to the people that live in just the 2 houses versus the 100 houses? Where I live in a small area that deals with significant flooding and have since we moved there. And I've been told since moving there, well, your problem's not bad enough for us to do it. And that sounds like what the district is saying as well.
Well, I can't tell you anything until I know what projects are on the docket and I know the revenue stream. And I don't want to give an impression the 2 houses flooded don't qualify for a project. Really, if I gave that impression, I'm sorry. On any given year, I don't know what that balance is. And so we have some appreciation of where you're at. We're going to get a better appreciation through this study. And there are areas where the erosion or the flooding is so severe and the threats are so severe, we decide to move. Now, the project size also dictates. If it's $2 million to protect 2, then we got to start asking ourselves questions. Now, what do I say to the resident? I don't know until I really have that back.
I just wanted to share my voice as a person in that small area where I can appreciate looking at the broader scope of things. I served on a stormwater committee for the city of Macedonia in 07 and then 08 and all those years. And we looked at the broader scope of our community and we did those projects. My husband and I, we wanted to look out for the betterment of the community, as I know that the district wants to do with your service area. But just don't forget about us little folks that are in that small little area that it only affects a couple of people. It's a big problem. And it is a huge impact on our lives. So I just needed to air that out. Thank you again for all of the work that you're doing. I just want to keep things going along. So thank you.
Andrea?
I just have a question. How do you get the information on which houses are flooding? Because I know house on Newport Drive flooded with 18 inches of standing water back in January, along with several of my neighbors. So how would you even get that information? How would you even know that that occurred? Because in reality, all we did was call our insurance companies, and how would you get that information?
So, couple of things. So we do look at the FEMA areas. We also recently acquired information from FEMA of folks who had submitted information insurance, so we would see that. We also coordinate with the city engineer and service director because they usually have a pretty good handle on streets and areas that have flooded in those times. And so we confirm, do we have these problem areas identified correctly? So I'm imagining, I think you're probably aware, I'm assuming you're aware of their flooding issue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Whenever there's flooding, the service department office gets inundated with phone calls, so.
So we have a back and forth with the city, with the engineer and the service director to make sure that we are capturing that area correctly. And then looking at our models and making sure that if there's areas that they have not brought to our attention but are in the model, we're looking at those. And the other way around, if our model is looking at areas that show flooding and they're saying, no, we don't have any history there. So we look at a lot of different sources. We look at the studies that the city has done, so we've incorporated all of that. So there's a lot of just knowledge inherently with the city that we use.
Okay. It's just a little concerning when I see it all, this one line, and then over here, there's nothing.
So over in there, we're responsible for the regional stream, and I've said that we've probably used that word a lot. Those are the streams that are 300 acres or more. If that is not on here, if that stream is not noted on here, it's probably a stream that does not fall under our program. So that may be why. We can certainly talk a little bit more, and I can get some information from Joe if there's any follow-up that we need to do.
So, trying to understand, certainly I've lived here for a long time too, and I hear everybody, and I've seen probably more damage this year as far as the amount of water than we probably ever had before. If you guys work with any other communities in a cooperative type scenario where the communities were able to raise some money as well as you guys in cooperation with fixing these problems?
We have, and we're open to the idea. We have a set revenue stream annually, and we've talked about risk-based. We are always open to cooperative arrangements with communities to potentially accelerate projects, and we've done that in one community already. So that's definitely on the table. We'd have to come to agreement. We'd have to make sure we understood the project, the cost sharing arrangement, but it's been done before.
So have you have any examples of other communities that you've worked with that we could maybe talk to and get some ideas from them on what they did? That's a good question.
We did some work in Shaker and Pepper Pike, and through Rachel. I would have Rachel handle this. And I do see that potential going forward. That helps. I mean, leveraging of revenue helps get more projects done.
So I will add, we've also worked with nonprofits who have grants to do stream restorations where we have provided them match. So they have gotten outside funding to implement a restoration project, and they needed a specific match, and because it is benefiting the regional system, it is on the regional system, we have participated in that as a match. So we are always open to those partnerships when they benefit the regional system.
Frank and Rachel, I thank you guys for coming today. Obviously, there's a lot of problems within our community, and you know that. And I apologize if I gave the impression that I was angry, but you got to understand that anger comes to us, and we got to look at you and go, "It's your fault."
I'm still smiling.
So I thank you for coming. We do appreciate what's going on with Sioux Lane, and we want to have a good working relationship with you. So thanks for coming tonight. And if we have any other questions, I'm sure we could forward those to you, and we will do that.
I'd like to...
maybe when the master plan's done, you guys can come back in and go through it point by point and see where we fall in Macedonia. We appreciate that.
I'd like to say a couple things because I think that we had stormwater studies beginning back in '07, and how much effort we have put into those things is very great. We had a lot of community members involved in it, but we didn't really fund anything until NERSD got involved here. And we've had 3 things happen, apparently one I didn't know about, which is over there in your area in Lake Forest. We've had that Sioux Lane culvert, which was extremely dangerous, and we've had the Iroquois property in a community share arrangement taken care of. Now, to me, we've made tremendous progress, and I want to compliment both Rachel and you, Mr. Greenland, for being cooperative with us. I really appreciate it. I think you've done a great job, and I've never found any problem when you talk to Rachel, you get the straight answer. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, moving on to public comments. I only have one this evening. That is Karen Bartolozzi. 5 minutes or under, please, and Chief, will you keep the time? Thank you.
1377
Break that down.
Driftwood Lane. Question about roads again. You got something going on tonight about third read on two issues. 80/20 sounds good. Valley View sounds good. I think you go for it. But what I'm asking is, if you don't get the 80/20, the 80/20 pushes Valley View to 2019?
No, 2020 for this intersection.
I'm not talking about the
No,
intersection.
I think Ms. Bartolotti's talking about paving Valley View Road. That's correct.
Just the road.
yes.
Okay.
So that pushes it to 2019.
Right.
That's
You know,
correct.
the city has it for next year.
Tentatively for next year.
So what happens to Shepherd that's not included in Shepherd from 82 to Highland, which is the second or third worst?
I don't know that Shepherd's affected.
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying. You're only going
Yeah.
for this one. My question is, if you go for that, fine, but I don't see any work being done to fix Valley View or Shepherd now. And I asked this about 10 weeks ago when the mayor was here. Nothing's been done on Valley View to fix anything. And if you push it back to 2019, Valley View is terrible. And you know,
Oh, yeah.
Shepherd's terrible too. when
They're
you
all
come out.
terrible, yeah.
Okay, but I do see some nice patching on Shepherd north of me. Nice 500-foot, nice thing. It's perfect, it needs to be done, but I see nothing on Shepherd or Valley View waiting for this to get done, whether it be on the 80/20 or the city does it. I don't see any commitment to the city fixing, patching for the next year or two, because Shepherd was pushed back to 2019 by the city. So I asked this 10 weeks ago, I've seen nothing on those two roads to fix any kind of patches at all, like I've seen other places, which is good.
Well, Valley View's on the list to be paved next year, just to be clear. What
Yeah.
we're talking about here is the intersection.
I know that, but have you driven, nothing's been done at Valley View today, this year, to help it make it that long?
We patched some of those, didn't we?
Service, I know, when I wish John was here to speak to it.
Now,
I know
you're talking about, you need like, what you did on the
Strip
Shepherd,
patch.
the 500-foot thing, that's what you need on Valley View, because the sides are just
Yeah.
falling apart. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, I see no commitment, I know they're on the list. One's 2018, 20's 2019, before this 80/20 thing comes up. I just don't see a commitment to help me ride on those two streets. Wow, I hate to put money in a road you're gonna fix in a year, but I didn't push it back. They were 2 and 3 on the list. You took care of Macedonia Commons first, which is great, because it's a good
I
road.
remember them
No.
being 2 and 3 on the list.
It was.
They were higher.
2015 was on the 2 and 3.
Yeah, they were on a different.
Shepherd
Yes.
and Valley View.
She's right.
2 and 3. Macedonia Commons is number 44. That's fine, priorities should move up. But then I asked just to subsidize the road a little bit to help people drive on it until it gets done. But I hate to waste money also. But you're asking us to drive on stuff that should have been, maybe one of them should have been taken care of, even though I know it's a big number, because it's a long area than the little ones. So I'm
Well,
just
just to be
wondering.
clear, what you're talking about is called strip patching, and regardless of what you do on a road, so say Valley View, which is going to be paved next year, they go and do some strip patching. That base repair that they're doing would need to be done next year anyway, so that little strip patch is actually going ahead of the game to get that ready to go. I get what you're saying about the other roads, but, you know.
But you're asking us to drive on it
Right.
when you pushed it back, especially Shepherd, to 2019 by the current city's plan. So 2 more years for Shepherd.
No, that's next year. Is that not next year, or am I wrong?
No. Valley View
No,
was-
yes. Yeah, the tentative schedule is,
Why, you know,
I
that
see.
could always change. I understand, you know, I don't see a commitment to help drivers on it until it gets done either way.
I got you.
The other thing I have is I have 2 streetlights that go off and on for the past 7 months that aren't fixed yet.
We have a severe problem with streetlights. I know recently the mayor had changed something because we were going through Maybe you could help me with that. Who was handling our lights for us?
Sherry handles the lights.
No, we had a company.
Oh.
I thought we do now.
I don't remember who did it, but they were charging us.
Yeah.
So they were charging us excessive amounts of money, and we caught on to what was going on, so we started to do it in-house. So we're in the transition of that. I'm not making excuses for it because I get a lot of calls about lights, and we've recently been getting some emails about lights, so it's something we're transitioning to. And the last time I talked to John, he had ordered a bunch of them, and I think they have just come in. So they're going to begin to start working on those lights. They are aware of those.
Yeah, if anybody has any lights that are out, call the service department and make them aware of the address in front of where the light is out so they can put it on the list of lights to be fixed.
I did that 7 months
Right.
ago.
I'm just saying, that's,
They go off and on. It's like a off,
That's for
on,
Halloween.
Off,
Yeah.
on.
That's for Halloween.
I would recommend, since we had another email on this topic, different person, I would like to see us do this at least. If we do have a list, I'd like to see John discuss it and then publish it on the website so that we know what's been recorded as wrong and a problem and when we are anticipating fixing it, just an estimate, because people have been saying they've called and then they don't get a response. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, moving on to new and pending legislation. First up is ordinance 92, 2017.
I'd like to offer ordinance number 92, 2017 for second and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
No, I'm gonna read it and then she's gonna amend it.
We have
Is that
to,
what-
all in favor?
Oh, yeah,
Second and
sorry.
third.
I
All
thought
in
you were.
favor?
Yeah.
Which are we
All
doing
in
now?
favor? Aye.
We're voting on second and third reading. That'd be the all
Oh,
in favor?
acceleration?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance amending annual appropriation ordinance number 19, 2017 for additional expenditures of the City of Macedonia for the period January 1, 2017 to December 31st, 2017.
Mr. President, I'd like to also offer amendment for the first version of ordinance number 92, 2017 to conform with the version introduced this evening. There were additional 5 items. All of these were discussed the other night, and I know, Ms. Hannikin, you missed our discussion at the first 5 minutes. As a team, council discussed every item on this agenda, and I believe you stayed afterwards to get your questions answered. So we have some on here that were added, but everything on this was discussed the other night, so I make my amendment.
And it is posted on the board. You might make a note of it's posted on the board.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, now I'd like to offer that we pass and post according to law ordinance number 92, 2017, please.
As amended, yes.
As amended.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 92, 2017 passes. Moving on to ordinance 93.
I'd like to offer ordinance number 93, 2017 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
Jen. Ms. Tully? We'll need to have the motion to suspend.
Yeah, I was going to do that after.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, now I'd like to offer that we suspend the 48-hour rules for the first, second, and third reading on ordinance number 93, 2017.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance ratifying a contract between the City of Macedonia, the International Association of Firefighters, Local 3947.
What's your
Before I
pleasure?
offer this for adoption, Mark, would you like to explain very briefly what this is?
Sure. This is a one-year collective bargaining agreement between the IAFF and the city. It's really just some housekeeping items. There's only really one relatively minor substantive provision about requesting vacation time, but otherwise it's just housekeeping.
And if we did not approve it, it still goes into effect after 30 days?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's basically a rubber stamp. Thank you.
And it only covers the period from the 1st of January this year till December 31st this year, so we have 2 months anyway. So
Correct.
Okay.
What's your
Hearing
pleasure?
that, I'd offer that we pass and post according to law ordinance number 93, 2017, please.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 93 passes. Moving on to 94.
Move to offer resolution number 94, 2017, for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
A resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for Federal Surface Transportation Block Grant STBG program funds programmed by the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study (AMATS) to resurface Valley View from State Route 82 to Highland Road.
I'd like to do a roll call on this,
Well,
please.
I move that we pass and post resolution number
either way.
94, 2017, and adopt the same according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Belkey,
This is an agreement that we're going to hopefully get money from AMATS. That's going to be an 80-20 split to pave 82 to Highland Road, Valley View Road. The approximate cost for the city would be, that 20% would be what, Mr. Giuliani?
183,000.
183,000. So that's much better than the 575,000 it would cost us without this money. Also wanted to say that we did pass a few TIFs in that area. That's going to help not only fund this project if we do get it passed, to bring that cost lower down. So basically this is giving us free money, and you know, if we want to, Karen just said Valley View Road is second on our list. So I vote yes on this one.
Mr. Engel.
Just a few comments before I vote. We've always talked that we need to have a plan, and we never seem to have a plan of what we're going to do for capital improvement. These things come up, and we've had 15 minutes of discussion and work session and whatever discussion we're going to have tonight. And if we vote on 94 and pass it, if we pass 95, we're committing $683,000 for the years 2019, 2020, which is a significant amount of our capital budget. And we're totally excluding any concern for water problems, particularly Our Lady of Guadalupe. And because of the fact we have no plan, and because of the fact that we're committing funds we don't know we're going to have, and even though I'm not going to be on council in that time, I'm voting no. More of a protest because I know it'll be voted passed.
Ms. Hannikin.
Yes, well, Mr. Engel's remarks are correct. I have to say that we have this particular road repave project, I think, is absolutely essential. But the overall planning that we're doing and how we're committing money is not clear from what we've got so far. This is very last minute. However, I believe that the $183,000 is justified in terms of a commitment. We are delaying it from 2018 to 2019 if we pursue this, I believe. So that might be an issue from what Ms. Bartolotti said, but I do believe that it would be better to go to the Surface Transportation Block Grant from the FAST program, because frankly, if we do get it done for this amount of money, I'll be surprised, but nonetheless, I think it's important, so I'm voting yes.
Mr. Mulder.
I think it's important to note that we keep hearing about a 5-year plan and how we need to plan into the future. The reality is we live on a shoestring budget, so we concentrate on income tax, which has always fluctuated in the 10 years that I've been here. And every time we've implemented a 5-year plan, it gets blown up the next year because guess what? The economy took a hit. It's never been a windfall for us. It's always been things taken away. So a 5-year plan's great in theory, but until we stabilize our own coffers, it's difficult to have that. So I don't know that that's going to work. As for Our Lady of Guadalupe, we have talked about that. I think next year is going to be going in for NERSD money to help correct that problem. I do, and I agree with Mr. Engel when we talk about the stormwater issues. That's definitely an issue, and Ledge and North Bedford are top of our priority list. The problem being, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, we're talking about $1 million to fix that. We don't have $1 million to fix that. We have to rely on the folks that were here tonight. As much as it frustrates me to say it's going to take another year, possibly 2, to even have anything, it drives me crazy. I tried to be as nice as possible, but it does drive me nuts. So with that being said, we're going after $575,000 of free money. We're on the hook for 183. That 183 is not going to solve that $1 million problem. Will it help it? Sure, but we're nowhere near what we need to correct that problem. So to say we're not going to go after free money to fix our problems on our roads, it's kind of silly to me. My vote's yes.
Ms. Tully?
I'll keep it real brief. There was a question of why did we just talk about this tonight? The grant, putting out for the grant comes out October 1st. You have to submit by the end of October. So this is our meeting to either say, yes, we're going to go forward with it or not. Again, it's money that we don't have. Yes, we have a 5-year plan, and I fully agree with Mr. Molinar. We have had a 5-year plan for years. But then, as Mr. Engel will know, we went into a deep recession. We couldn't even look at the number 1, 2, or 3 on that 5-year plan. And we actually put in a temporary tax for us to be able to proceed with day-to-day activities. We may or may not get the money. It's not a guarantee. The people on Bedford Road knows my number 1 commitment is to get the stormwater finished. After working with them on those committees and trying to get it through, but I'm a little disheartened by the time frame still. Studies still not here. But I can't pass this up. $183,000. Anyone who drives that road, anyone who drives that intersection knows something's got to be done. The traffic is getting heavier instead of lighter, so I'm a yes.
Resolution 94, 2017 passes. Moving on to Resolution 95.
Move to offer resolution number 95, 2017 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
A resolution authorize the mayor to apply for Federal Service Transportation Block Grant, STPG, program funds programmed by the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study, AMATS, to resurface Valley View Road from State Route 82 to Highland Road. This pertains to the intersection at Highland and Valley View.
I move that we pass and post resolution number 95, 2017 to the same according to law.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
You want to do a roll call?
We'll do a roll call. Do a roll call.
Yeah, you did a roll call on the other.
Mr. Bilkey?
So this is a little different from the last issue. Instead of paving from 82 to Highland on Valley View, this is actually redoing the intersection. I live in that area and I use that section just about every day, and I can tell you it's dangerous because people are in a hurry, it backs up, there's no turning lanes, and I understand that this is a cost. This one is another 80-20 split that you would, and that 20% would be close to $500,000. So not to belabor any more points, we have a fight. I mean, it drives me crazy when someone says we don't plan for this, because we do plan for it. We went out and studied the roads, and we said, all right, these are the roads that need fixed in order. And, this is the area that needs fixed. So to say that we're not going to try to get money from this AMATS to fix this is ridiculous. So this project would be done in 2020. It could be done tomorrow for safety reasons. So for safety reasons and for reasons that that intersection needs to be redone, it's not going to be a roundabout. It's actually putting in turning lanes. I'm not sure if that's going to, why it's increased the cost, but I vote yes.
Mr. Engel?
No, for the same reasons as I stated earlier.
Ms. Hannigan?
I've been studying this since we received this project information, which unfortunately, I think there's a number of problems with this. The actual cost is that it was estimated for increasing the turning lanes at Valley View and Highland was estimated last year to be $872,000 in this configuration, which includes basically a traffic signalization cost of $200,000. And it now is estimated at almost $2 million. So my concern is this. Number one, this project and this way that's laid out has not really been thought through from my standpoint because we haven't had enough time to see why there's a difference in this estimate process, number one. Number two, $500,000 is a major commitment for that year, which means that other things may get delayed, including stormwater. And I find the whole process that we're going through disturbing from this point of view. We really need to understand, as a council, what we're committing to compared to what else. And we're doing it individually by these projects. And we do not have an infinite amount of money, as was said earlier. So I find this particular thing disturbing because I know we could have had this prior to this. This program for the block grants has been in place since 2015. I would have preferred that we have something in our hands a month ago, maybe not every detail, but the major details. And now we're sitting here tonight having first seen this yesterday. And I just find the whole process here not helpful for us to work out financial issues that we're going to have trying to correct all these problems in Macedonia because we haven't spent money on any of these projects for 20 years. So I do think this particular one needs to have been held. It wasn't, obviously. So I'm going to vote no on this. It's not because I don't think the road's in a dangerous situation. It is. It's not that I don't think it's very important that we fix those problems there. In fact, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was talking with a resident over there yesterday and hearing the traffic and seeing the trucks. What we need to have is some idea of where this sits and ranks in the whole picture. We don't have it, and I think we need to do that for something this expensive. So I'm voting no.
Mr. Molnar.
I think it's important to note that we got this October 1st. The administration brought it to us today, so there was some time to mow that over and decide whether or not they wanted to bring it to this council to decide whether we wanted to go after some, get this, free money. That intersection is dangerous, has been for years. I believe some people have passed in that intersection. I have personally seen car crashes that I was appalled by in that intersection. It's something that we've needed to address for a long time, and anyone who drives that road at any time of high traffic can tell you that that's a nightmare over there. Traffic engineers are the ones that designed this. To question the traffic engineer is kind of ludicrous to me because those are the people that looked at it and said, here's what we think is best to correct the problem at this intersection. We can't mow it over any more than that if they're telling us this is what we see to be fit to correct the problem. And by the way, we don't, even if we get the grant, we don't have to do it. We could still say no and back out of it, but why not go after the free money and try for that? It's dangerous. I feel like we need to do it, at least look at it and try. My vote's yes.
Ms. Tully.
For those of you who are wondering what the heck are we talking about, first of all, at that intersection at Valley View and Highland, we talked about a roundabout. And I talked to the engineers, not only Joe, but his compadres, can't do a roundabout. And why is that? Because of the grade level. If you're coming north on Valley View, the grade level's got too much of a dip to safely have a roundabout with the volume of traffic. Could it be done with the semis going back and forth? Yes, we've proven that on 91 where they did it, where the Heinens is. Their trucks use that roundabout. So yes, a roundabout can be used by semis, even though I was not sold on it, but I've seen them use it. This provides us a through lane, a left turning lane, and a right lane going all ways on those roads, east, west, north, and south. It also will create a longer left turning lane on the Shepherd. Anyone who comes out that way knows it's dangerous. Anyone who travels that way, you know, I can't fault Twinsburg for getting some great companies over in their area between Twinsburg and Twinsburg Heights. But the traffic that they've brought down Highland Road, it's dangerous. We created the bridge, the Dino DeLugos Memorial Bridge, for safety. We went after money to make that happen. This is the same thought process as going after money to make it happen. I vote yes.
Resolution 95, 2017 passes. Any other motions or legislative actions?
I make a motion authorizing the police chief to accept on behalf of the city of Macedonia a donation from Canine Guardian Foundation of One 5.11 slingback trauma kit valued at $275.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any other motions?
I'd like to make another motion authorizing the service director to accept on behalf of the city of Macedonia a donation from Home Depot, Macedonia of one Star Angel Christmas tree topper valued at $80, and I think it's already up in the Memorial Park, isn't it?
So we already accepted, is what you're saying?
We accepted it, but not officially, yes.
We've taken possession of it, now we'll accept it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, so now we're in conjunction with.
Okay, correspondence from the clerk?
I have none, sir.
The mayor's report, he is not here tonight, but he did want me to mention, there's been a lot of talks lately about Macedonia and our neighboring communities and whether Macedonia could annex Northfield Center. We cannot do that. There's a JED and there's a 50-year period where that cannot happen. So he wanted me to make sure I at least mention that tonight so that political football can get squashed. Moving on to committee reports.
Hey, hold on, Nick, if you want to mention that they open tomorrow morning and they're grand
Doing a new
reopening
business.
tomorrow. Okay.
I know how much you love coffee. So. Committee reports.
We have a Finance Committee meeting again next Thursday. It's at 6 p.m., November 2nd. We'll continue our discussion around the general fund expenses. The way that we set this up is the department heads and the mayor present what they need. And then we talk about, do we have the money to do it? Can we move forward? I've got to admit that the presentations we had at the last one, your department heads are very conscious of the fact there isn't any extra dollars in the checkbook. And they are being very cautious in their spending and their projected spending. And I don't put any of them on the spot because I know the next group will come in with the same philosophy. And so we'll have those people on Thursday, the 7th, or the 2nd at 6 p.m. Thank you.
So the Parks and Recs Committee is going to meet on Wednesday, November 1st. I spoke with Mr. Garbus today. I was going to wait for new business, but the Greek candidates night has officially been canceled. I guess they couldn't put it together, so we're going to put the Parks and Rec committee back on 6:30 at the Rec Center.
Any other committee reports? Hearing none, department reports. Mr. Gelati.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Molnar. Just a couple items to touch on. Road program for this year is almost complete. We have just a small amount of crack seal left to finish and then paint the stripes on the roads that were paved this year. And then that only leaves paving of Sioux Lane to be completed under the road program. And when it comes to Sioux Lane, as you guys probably know, the road is closed at this point, and I don't know if anybody's, how close anybody has gotten to take a look, but we're moving right along. I would say about another 3 weeks and the road will be opened. Today they actually started building the steel rebar cage for the new box culvert bridge. And that's all I've got to touch on.
So I do have a question for you. I got a question about the berm. It's powdery. Can you explain? I believe it was on Summer, and I know that Nick answered it through social media, but I'd like it to be on the record here about the process about the bermage and how it's going to be put in and why it's flaky now and as it will harden up over time.
Yeah, the berm is an item that's installed standard on any road that gets paved that does not already have a concrete curb. And quite honestly, the roads that were paved here in Macedonia in 2015, most of those were in the B streets. Those all had the same berm installed along with them. It's a standard ODOT specification, and quite honestly, what it really is a little bit of protection. It protects the edge of the new asphalt road, and asphalt's very expensive. So really what it is, it's a little protection on our investment, I guess, a little protection on all the money we've just spent on these roads. So, and if you drive around, I drove around the B streets earlier today actually, and the berms there are all in good condition. There's no issues really at all. So
They are.
Well, it's important to know too that that's actually like a asphalt grinding that will harden over time with precipitation, moisture, whatever you want to call it. That's the way it's designed, and there was some talk about, you know, people had walked on it and it felt soft to them, and it's going to feel soft initially, but over time it's going to harden. Am I correct?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the intent behind it. This is a standard used by ODOT, and it's nothing new. More importantly than the berm right now, though, can we talk about Brook Point?
Oh, sure. Brook Point, the work we're going to do there behind Ledgeview School, we currently have our contractor scheduled to move in there and begin on Saturday, 2 days from today. Actually, looking at the weather forecast, the weather looks not so good on Saturday, so we'll have to see. But if he's delayed on Saturday, you know, obviously we'll have him in there as soon as we can. So, and we've coordinated with the school on that item, and we're ready to go. So.
It's also important to note that you're having them go in on the weekend to mobilize because they're coming through the school property, trying to not do that during school hours. So I guess my question would be, with the crummy weather on Saturday, would they come in on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't know if they would do Sunday. You know, our other possibilities are either on another Saturday or to move in after hours, after school is closed for the day.
Let's make it midnight here. So.
It's supposed to rain all week, though.
Let me ask you, Joe, since you mentioned Sioux Lane Culvert and the progress, when are we anticipating that to be completed? You know, just ballpark, and then have we started a reimbursement process? Can we, at this point?
Yeah, about another 3 weeks, and we should be finished there with that project. And no, we haven't started the reimbursement process. We have to actually make payment ourselves, and then in turn,
so we have not made
we haven't paid our contractor yet because he's not finished. So.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Thanks, Joe. Mrs. Hall?
Thank you. Just a quick note on our Rita receipts for the month of October. We received $873,200.73, which is up from last year of $650,696.09, which is an increase of $222,504.64. So cumulatively for the year, we are up $559,904.19. So obviously the 0.25% is in effect. I still think it's higher than even that 0.25% it should be.
Right.
So it's good. It's good news. So hopefully we'll keep it going that way. The subpoena program is going to be here. Rita will be here on November 6th. 1,300 letters went out to residents saying that they were delinquent in their income taxes. So if you know anybody, make sure that they get their selves into the City Hall. It's going to be downstairs in the community room all day.
Could I just ask, what was the criteria for that program in terms of notifications?
No, just speak up.
Anybody that's delinquent and hasn't
Well, I
filed
mean,
a
but what's the
return.
delinquency criteria?
Well, they haven't filed a return, and they're late on some prior years.
Okay, so they haven't filed a return this year or in a previous year?
I would say it's for 2000. They haven't filed for previous years or even 2017.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Because it was due in April, unless they received an extension, but they would have, Rita would know of that. We are in discussions. We had a discussion with Rita just the other day regarding the application refund. For the refund that we have in place for the city, they made some suggestions to my application form, so I'm going to draft a second form, return it back to them, and have them review it once again. And then we're still in the process of working out the details. So hopefully by the end of the year or so, we should get everything finalized with the refund. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Chief Black?
Thank you. Our annual Halloween party is this Sunday from 2 to 4. So there'll be, it's been held since 1966. So It is our annual Halloween, and there'll be fire truck rides and candy and costume contests as we always have. It's open to anybody, as it always has been, so all the kids are allowed to come from any place.
Excuse me,
The more,
Chief.
the merrier. Then we all, what?
You said 2 to 4. Is it 2 to 4 or 4 to 6? Because I have it on the calendar. Do I have it
You know
wrong?
what, I think it's 4 to 6, you're
4
right,
to
thank
6,
you.
Okay.
4 to 6. We
Okay.
changed it from
Okay.
6 to 8, so it is.
Just because you're verbal and I want to make sure
Thank
everybody
you.
hears
Start
that.
at 2, more candy for the kids, right? Sugar them up.
And then our Pancake Day coming up November 12th from 8 till 1, and we changed the time on that also. So that is our annual Pancake Day.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about EMS collections and why we had to add additional funds tonight?
Well, we did. We had to add some additional funds because of our EMS billing for ourselves and the other communities. Our collections are up, way up this year. We're collecting additional monies here in the city. We've been working very hard. As you know, we soft bill our residents, so there's no out-of-pocket expense for them. We take what their insurance pays. But with the consolidation with Sagamore and the consolidation with Northfield Center, we've been able to increase way above our projections of what we've been collecting. So it looks like we're collecting this year probably, geez, I actually have it. Macedonia, we should collect $331,000. Sagamore Hills, $263,000, and Northfield Center, $170,000. So that helps offset their costs that they pay to us, and that would be projected on based on averages for September. So rather good. Those numbers just came out. I worked on them today, and that's based up through the first 9 months. So, and that soft billing, of course, we don't soft bill non-residents, so crashes and stuff like that, they pay the full bill. But we work very hard on that. We have a new program that when we do our run sheet, it's on the internet, and it automatically goes to QA, goes to the hospital, drops in their files as patient information, and then also goes straight to our billing company and then drops into their system automatically and is able to be billed out to the insurance company. So we work real hard on being able to do that and make it a smooth transition so that they're able to bill. You make one little mistake on any bill, of course, that throws a flag up and you don't get paid. So we work hard on that. So that helps those communities. I just put that out today, as a matter of fact, so that they can help with their budgeting process for next year, so that they had some firm numbers. But those are way up above what they had collected in the past. I wasn't able to get a lot of their collections because of the criminal case going on in District 27 for their fire department. So I wasn't able to get my hands on a lot of their past billing to see exactly what they were collecting.
Thank you. Chief Golden?
No report.
Mr. Goodetti?
No report, sir.
Moving on to unfinished business.
Were we going to get a report from the Inter-House Committee?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have a report today, Mr. Kasmer?
Yeah, I have a little report.
Department.
Come on. Give him his report.
You know, as you know, I guess, we're grand reopening this Sunday at the Longwood Manor, 1 to 4:30 p.m. Everybody's invited, come in. We feel the house is pretty safe right now. The fire extinguishers, we got 4 of them. They were mounted today. We'd like to get training. Chief Black could send someone over to train the volunteers on the use of the fire extinguishers. And we need to talk to Donnie
Point at
Bell.
the fire. I could train you right now. Point at the fire and squeeze.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, we hope it's that simple.
Turn water on.
I don't know how many of us have actually held and used a fire extinguisher. I haven't.
Pull the pin and clamp it down.
Yeah.
There's probably instructions.
We can. What time
You
tomorrow?
trained on it. Boy,
We'll be there tomorrow, off and on a lot of the day. Just, we'll have volunteers because we're still finishing some stuff up. Yeah, please come over.
Yeah, we gotta test the fire alarm.
Yeah.
I know the burglar alarm works because it went off today.
We're sorry.
By somebody, but we want to make sure that the fire alarm's all up and working.
Yeah, to get one of you got one of the service department people today, I think. I'm sorry to By the way, is there a new security company? Is Rampart still in business or what?
I'm unsure.
Is somebody monitoring the service alarm? I guess they are, because they come.
We got a call.
They're coming, yeah.
We get fire alarms, but we're going to test it.
Yeah, they showed up. I think they did their job.
Yeah, they are, they come right away. I mean, it's like 1 to 3 minutes, there's somebody.
So it's opening Sunday. Has it passed all inspections? Because I know we had a report last year that had a laundry list of things that had to be approved. Has all of those been approved and certified by our inspector?
I'll have to ask.
They will be tomorrow. We have to do the fire alarm system.
Okay, but
So
there
we're
were
gonna-
other things.
We're going to be, yes. The other things on the list have been worked on. The service department has been up there working extremely hard. Electrical, the
Okay.
fire
So it's this-
extinguishers, the exit lights. We are limiting. It's going to be on a tour basis, so it's not just open the doors and let
And it's
people in.
no access to the second floor because nothing has
In the
ever been
basement,
done.
no access to the
We
basement.
have we have them blocked off, roped off. We'll have
And-
volunteers, so we just keep small people, if we're bringing, not small people, small groups of people around the first floor.
I can come in, I'm only
There is
5'4".
there's a non,
I'm small.
it's up, but it's not finished.
And do we have the handicap accessible? Because that was the other question before we could even let tours.
Yes, through the garage.
Okay, so the city, I know, has done all this work. Okay, thank you.
So we're all set then. Good.
Yeah, we think we're in good shape for that. This is a start, you know. We did, they cleaned the manor this Saturday. We had Dolly maids in, we had 4 cleaners working 6 hours. I want to thank Sylvia Hannikin for helping with the expense on that. This was something we paid part, and she paid part as a donation. So we got the whole first floor cleaned, including the public restrooms, which probably haven't been cleaned in 10 years, I would imagine, because the house hasn't been open. And the service department, I gotta take a second here, because these guys have been over all year. Today they put in a new gravel driveway in the back of the manor. It's really cool. You know, now we got almost have a parking lot over by the soccer field, and we have a new driveway. But anyway, I want to mention the names of these service workers that have been working this year on the house. Mike Black, that's your son, Brian Schumann, Mike DeBrosi.
DeBrouse.
Mike DeBrouse. He's right
DeBrouse.
there, you can thank him yourself, he's in the audience.
I'm gonna murder some of these.
He knew you were gonna say that today, that's why he came.
Oh, yeah, you said you were gonna be here today to make sure I did this, yeah.
Thanks to Bruzy.
Ron Furman, Furman?
Fire him.
Fire him?
Jason Kleck, Nick Fazzaza. Okay, these service guys have come over this. I'm sorry, I murdered everybody.
Yeah, they got hard last names, but they're good at effort, right?
They did a great job. So we thank all those people. We thank you guys, council. We hope you'll stop in.
Well,
you know.
we had the fire department move the party so we can come to the grand opening.
Exactly.
That's perfect.
Yes, that's well. How about that? Yeah.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
I seen you there.
Any new business?
I do, I want to say a couple things. First off, I think everyone probably knows this by now, but Starbucks is opening tomorrow at 5 a.m. I'm sure a lot of people are excited about that. You know what, I do not know when Aspen Dental's opening though. So they're in the same building? They open today, okay. I also want to remind people that Walmart just put in $1.6 million in their facility, and tomorrow they're having a grand reopening at 7 a.m. I'm actually going to be there to cut the ribbon. So I'm very excited about that and nervous. Hope I get it done right.
We're delegating you to do that at 7 a.m.
I also wanted to wish everyone luck. This will be the last council meeting before the next election. And so those who are running, I mean, I know it's admirable that you want to serve your city, so everyone deserves the best of luck from up here. Also want to congratulate, and she'll kill me if I don't, her name's Allie Walters. She's a second grade student of the month at Ledgeview for September. She's also my neighbor. And the last thing is more of a pitch to help us out. I know that we had the NRSD come in and we put all over social media and it kind of gets the word out. We're here to help. I think every one of us up here would do anything that we can to solve your problems out there. If you could help us by emailing us directly your problems or the reasons that don't put them on social media and think they're going to get solved. It's not the way to do it. Just we're here to help you. So if you have a problem, if you have an issue with the burn or with flooding, it's easier for us to address them if we know what they are and not have to search them. And I know I do a lot of, I do look on social media and I help people, but it's becoming more and more frustrating because if I don't, then it's my fault I didn't answer the questions. And I'd rather, if you come to me directly, believe me, I'll solve it. I'll do the best I can to put you in contact with the people that can solve it. So with that said, I have nothing else.
Thank you, Mr. Bilkey.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.